One of my most anticipated anime of the spring season is finally here, and I have to say, this first episode wholly met my expectations. Tsuki ga Kirei, episode 1 for me. This first episode was stunning for a lot of reasons, particularly because what I wanted from this series is exactly what it seems like I'm going to get. Deep, emotive, visceral characters in a realistic and grounded setting, which is indicative of the staff that we have on this project. Because look, as soon as I heard that Feel was doing a slice of life romance, and on top of that, Seiji Kishi was directing, and they had Kakihara on the script, it was a wrap. It was done. I knew I was going to fall in love with this series. But what it does with this episode, both formally, aesthetically, stylistically, and just in terms of the narrative, where it doesn't just, kind of teeter and establish that surface level, but it starts to delve deeper, straight out of the gate. It's exactly what I wanted, because I already know some people are going to watch this first episode, especially with, kind of the lighthearted air of it. And just be like, this is that kind of awkward slice of life middle school story. And it is, don't get me wrong. But don't for a second think it's going to be that simplistic. Because I already see signs of them delving deeper, like I said. Just the depth of the character inspection in this episode. What was showcased, the characterization, the interactions, executed phenomenally well. And it gives me so much hope to kind of delve into the social interaction with the characters. I think, realistically, Kotarou, one of the main characters' words at the beginning of this episode kind of frames my mindset as far as the middle school setting perfectly. Because he says, even in middle school, there's inequality. The upper and lower class. The cool clubs and the lame ones. Attractiveness and grades. We use every weapon at our disposal to establish a pecking order. And mind you, that quote was the moment where I realized that this man, was quite intellectual, and really kind of observing and trying to internalize the world around him at that age, which on the one hand, the series as a whole, just based off of this first episode, is really bringing me back, because the awkward dynamic between, Akane and Kotarou, I'm probably gonna call her Mizuno, because it's easier. There's too many Akanes out here, but the awkward dynamic between Mizuno and Kotarou is just classic middle school romance, dude. It instantly took me back, and I think it's going to do that for a lot of us. Just allowing us to reminisce and hit us with that little tinge of nostalgia there. And I think that's exactly what the series is trying to do to a certain extent. And, the older demographic is really being appealed to here more than anything. But before I talk about that any further, let's delve into more of the formal aspects first, and then kind of talk about the episode and the character development, and the plot and scenario that got set up in this episode. So, first of all, formally and aesthetically, I love the art style, dude. I absolutely love it. I know some people are gonna have problems with that. I instantly see, especially with the lighting and the shading, people are gonna be like, they look too kind of glossy and artificial with the white shading and how the light hits the characters. I absolutely love that style. It's very unique and hyper stylized for me, and I think the art is pretty much pristine. From the backgrounds, the color palettes, everything about it is just crafts this perfect atmosphere. Like, from the very first opening sequence, the shots that we got of the town, of Kawaga and Aisan, the school, the sakura blossoms falling, just kind of giving us and framing us in that springtime vibe. I think it was perfect. I think it was absolutely amazing. The only qualm I have with the art and the aesthetic and kind of transitioning into the animation as well is the CGI with the background characters' movements. It's jarring, it's stiff, it just looks off, but I can excuse that because in classic Feel fashion, the expressiveness and emotiveness of the characters and their facial expressions and their actual body movements and gestures and interactions when you're focused on said characters is phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. So I really love that about it, and that definitely trumps the kind of weird, stiff CGI background character movements that I saw initially in the opening of this episode. So the music is absolutely phenomenal, dude. First of all, the Naotoyama opening and ending, especially both of them, actually. I can't even put one over the other right now. Both of them are angelic, dude. Like, that shit, even though the opening and ending sequence aren't even that, insane or crazy, or there's not a great deal of movement or anything happening in those sequences, those two tracks are some of my favorite. They're definitely going to be in my tops for top opening and ending of this season. They're beautiful. And then on top of that, the OST, I think, suits the air of this series perfectly. They're so atmospheric and grounded, but at the same time, certain tracks have that kind of whimsical and theatrical nature to them that overall it frames and kind of contains this series in a way where I was entranced from beginning to end, just watching these normal, simple middle school slice of life interactions that normally, you would venture to say would be simplistic, but what they do with the subtext, what they do with the dialogue, is exactly why Oregairu, for example, is one of my favorite series of all time. And realistically, you can't really put that on feel. This being an original work, however, I see elements of how they adapted that in this series, particularly, like I said, with the emotions of the characters, the direction and cinematography, which I'm going to put on Seiji Kishi wholeheartedly, I really loved. I really loved. The shots were perfect. I really had zero qualms with them overall, especially how the focus was framed in certain character interactions, particularly between Kotarou and Mizuno. I think it worked really, really well. But the interaction is really awkward. So let's kind of talk about the episode as a whole. And that's the other thing too with the cinematography. Like, for example, that transition after school with the sunset, kind of giving us a glimpse of the overview of the town, and then going back to Mizuno's character. I just love transitionary sequences like that. It's crazy. But I'm not gonna be ranting about the formal aspects. Let's get into the episode, like I said. So first of all, the setting, just that classic slice of life middle school setting. We're introduced to our two main characters, Kotarou and Mizuno, which both of them, from the moment you see them kind of looking at each other during the opening ceremony, they both have feels for each other. They both got the little middle school crush going, and as you can imagine, it was awkward. One of my favorite scenes from this episode is when they're both at both of their families are at the family restaurant, and they kind of catch a glimpse of each other, and from then it just kind of gets ridiculous. And that's the thing as a side note that I really love as well, is the characterization for the family that we get in that moment. Like, for example, Mizuno's family just so, nosy and overbearing, going over to talk to Kotaro's family as soon as her older sister says something about it. I was just like, yo, this is absolutely absurd. And then on the flip side, dude, Kotaro's father as well being like, yo, she's cute. Like, it's just so realistic and grounded in that way where I feel like every one of us can relate to that to some extent. And I think that things like that, where it's not cliche, but at the same time, it's heavily relatable and it is nothing, groundbreaking or new, are little shows that kind of serve to orient us and draw us into a series and have it be relatable in a certain sense. And I think that good slice of life series have elements like that overarching, like things like the father being like, yo, I want the beer and the drink bar. I want the beer at the drink bar. And Kasa's like, no, you can't have the beer. You don't need both. I'm like, let the man enjoy himself. Let the man live. He wants both. But either way, kind of seeing the interaction between Mizuno and her older sister as well, her kind of teasing her, and kind of using that dynamic to play up this lineup, which I'm going to talk about in a second, was really interesting. But nevertheless, what I love in that scene, for example, when Kotaro's family is kind of messing with him slightly, and he takes a sip of the coffee and he says it's bitter, right? And this is something that reminds me of exactly the way they would do a sequence in Oregairu with Hachiman's character, where that line had dual applications heavily. And this is what I'm talking about with the subtext and things happening beneath the surface. There's going to be so much more use of this I can see down the line, because this was a very straightforward, just introductory episode. But that it's bitter applied to the coffee, but then heavily so to the interaction that just took place with his family and, being teased about Mizuno and everything like that. So when they continue to play off, dual applications of dialogue like that and characters' feelings and their internality, it's and especially when it's that apparent, it's refreshing to me, dude. I find that really nice. You don't have to delve too far to find out and put your finger on what a said character is thinking, and it serves well to develop both of those individuals. Things like, at the beginning, Mizuno after the opening ceremony with her little plush toy that she has every time she's nervous, and she squeezes a little bit, like having to work up the courage to ask Kotarou for his lineup ID and everything like that. Like, it was just so fucking adorable and cute. I also love the fact that as far as those two are concerned, I haven't looked into the cast as a whole, but having that kind of young, fresh Seiyu blood for these characters just kind of gives them their own distinct air and doesn't really harken back to anyone else, and grounds and establishes them as kind of, I feel them as like real living individuals, and that's what I need in a series like this. So I thought that was awesome and great to see. As far as the side characters, you know they're going to play them up heavily as things go on. You know, we got introduced to Aida. Roman is my boy, dude. Roman is dope. That Playboy demeanor. I just really like the design too, with that hair color. It's absolutely amazing. But that was great. And then like just moments of levity, like the soup typo, which that shit was just so fucking dumb to me. But it was that dumb that I actually had to laugh. Like I love it. I'm not gonna lie, because it's just that kind of stupid, simple little shit that kind of frames that middle school dynamic a lot, and really, again, arc into the nostalgia and brought me back to that sense of self in my younger days. Overall, I really love Mizuno's character. I think she's absolutely amazing, and even more than that, I love Kotaro's character as well. That's how effective he is. The quotes, the Dazai quotes. This man, the very fact that he's into writing that juxtaposed with, you know, Mizuno and her track endeavors and everything like that. He's well read and educated at that young age, where the two Dazai quotes he has, which I absolutely love both of them, is how excruciatingly arduous and unbearable it is to live, dude. And the context at which he applies that, I'm like, yo, the angst has only just begun for you, my boy. But the other one that I really, really love, which is after he and Mizuno finally have a conversation, he gets the line ID, is the feeling of joy is perhaps like a speck of gold, glimmering faintly at the bottom of a river of grief. Yo, what's how he dies? He's a god, but I love the fact that seemingly that's one of his favorite authors, and that's definitely going to come into play as far as his mentality going forward, and that kind of romantic ideal that he has right now. So with that said, one more thing before I start to close this out. The line app, definitely going to be crucial. I actually like the implementation of this, as far as having this kind of side messaging app for communication between the characters in the school, because that's definitely going to be used to destabilize the romance and cause some drama at some point in time in the future. They already had shows of it with, you know, how heavily, you know, Mizuno's sister uses it, how essential it is for them in the, you know, in the equipment club to kind of help with the track team and everything like that. And you already know, I don't really want a love triangle with this, but I do want that kind of middle school mischief to come into play, and kind of try and subvert and mess with the relationship, you know, provide some obstacles and build up the drama a little bit. So, and it's only a matter of time. It really is only a matter of time. I'm not sure if these, I really think a single core will be fine for this, pacing wise, with what we got this episode. I mean, they finally spoke by the end of it, so I thought that was great, but it really depends how they handle it overall. As far as if this series reaches the full potential I see in it, because it could be something absolutely amazing. I don't know if it's getting to that Oregairu status for me. That's just because Wataru's not. If this was Wataru's, no. If Wataru had written this, then potentially I'd be fanboying on a whole new level. But nevertheless, with the talent that we have involved with this, with what I'm seeing in this first episode, which was nothing, you know, absolutely magnificent and spectacular. I'm not saying this is the best first episode of the season so far. No, that's not the truth. However, the potential I see in this, how much I enjoyed this first episode, is one of my favorite first episodes this season thus far. And despite the minor problems it has with the utilization of CGI, some points with the animation is kind of flawed and jarring. I think the art style and the stylization more than makes up for that. And the interactions with these characters is going to be really interesting to witness and see unfold. So with all that said, I'm going to be going in, like I said, with these reviews. I think reviews are all I really want to do for this series, to be honest with you. I know some people would be like, no, it'd be cool for you to do live reaction. No, we're doing the reviews for this. We're going to go more and more. I guarantee you it's going to get longer and longer as we get more into these characters, into their daily lives, and into the dramatic elements of this series. these reviews are going to end up being really long. I don't even know how long this one is, but I'm sure it's on the longer side. So let me know your thoughts on Tsuki ga Kirei. I'm going to go listen to the fucking opening and ending again, dude, because I need to hear that again. And the only other thing that I'm concerned about is the fact that this is Feel. So I'm not sure if I'm going to upload this on the Nikki channel or my actual channel or what have you. I'll figure it out. I might be willing to take that risk, but we'll see. So let me know your thoughts. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed the reviews and you're looking forward to further reviews on Tsuki ga Kirei. And I will see you guys later. Peace.